Hey guys, welcome to Finally Clicked, the podcast where we discuss business, leadership, and personal development. My name is Margaret Smith, and I'm the Director of Operations for Pickett Street Properties, a real estate team out of Bothell, Washington. And I'll be here every week with our owner and team leader, Jesse D. Moore. We'll be digging into concepts and ideas that have helped us both personally and professionally, and you'll also get a chance to hear from local and national experts that we know provide massive value to get to the point where it all finally clicks.
Tastes like Boss's Day.
Tastes like pride.
I have a quote. Someone asked me about a bottle of wine, and I said, what did I say? I gotta think about it. It smells like regret and tastes like destiny.
Destiny. That's beautiful.
Well, like in an Anchorman sort of.
Yeah,
Right?
I like that.
Right.
That's really nice.
Not like
This is a smooth whiskey, I would say.
Very smooth.
That means they like you a lot.
We're drinking Jameson Black Barrel, a gift from Jessica.
What's the percentage? What's the proof?
The proof.
Is it 50?
80.
Holy crap. I can feel that proof.
Cheers, Margaret.
Oh,
You gotta drink after you cheers.
I drank. I could drink quickly.
You drink before.
With authority.
Welcome
Welcome.
to this episode of Finally Clicked, a special edition.
Special edition. It's been at
ASMR
least
and
60
whiskey.
days.
Where's the ASMR box?
Oh my god.
I don't have any toys to play with.
Can I go get it?
Hold on.
You hold the crowd. I'll be right back.
I can't. You want me to whisper by myself?
Yes, whisper by yourself in the room.
Everyone's gonna have their. Oh, goodness gracious. What can I tell you about Margaret while she's gone that she won't know about until she edits this? You should know that Margaret is very monochromatic these days. Lots of blacks and whites and grays. I need a splash of color every once in a while. A shawl, a scarf. Oh, hi, Margaret. She's back.
Hello.
What was that? Was that your attempt to whistle?
No, I can whistle much better
Quit
than that.
blowing on the mic.
I don't think you've done that before.
Oh man, I haven't had Pop Rocks in a while. If I die from Pop Rocks.
It's a weird sensation.
You know what I've always wondered?
Do they keep popping as
Do
they go
Pop
down?
Rocks complement whiskey?
Mm.
Not really.
I think
No, not
I
at all.
think a couple of them have gone up into my brain. I can feel them ticking behind my ear. to say I've missed our toy box. It's been a good minute.
I can never do this for very long.
No. We couldn't do it the whole show. Can you imagine?
No. Did you know Pop Rocks were made in Spain?
No, I had no idea. What are they actually made of? It's like
Chemicals.
Rice Krispies on crack.
It says processed with carbon dioxide.
Oh.
It's mostly sugar and carbon dioxide. All right. I can't do that. Hi, Margaret.
Hello.
I'm gonna
To the MG.
escalate my voice gradually.
Good
so
idea.
it's not to like
Shock our
alarm
audience.
everybody.
Totally. Yeah, good idea.
I don't know how many car accidents we've caused, but I can't be the cause
Quite
of any more.
a few. Mm-hmm.
It feels like a hot minute since we've been sitting across the studio
Specifically
table
with a cup of whiskey.
from one another.
Yes. Mm-hmm. No, it does. I agree.
It's nice to be back.
I'm glad to still be here. I like to say that way. Yeah.
We did a bunch of episodes,
Yeah. A lot of
We did,
episodes between this and our last ASMR.
an interview, and an interview.
Mm-hmm. 2 interviews.
And an interview.
Mm-hmm. The 5 steps.
5
I don't think we
steps.
broke between that either.
No, we didn't.
No, it's been a hot minute.
At least 5 episodes
Mm-hmm.
that were not ASMR related.
Mm-hmm.
That's a long time.
Mm-hmm. And we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary here next week.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still upset about the numbering.
I kind of am too, I have to say. Plus, maybe you can educate me for a minute, because this is one thing I've not yet researched about podcasts. You know, we are about, I think this will be our 57th episode for our first season. And I'm seeing most people have seasons of like 5 to 10 episodes. And then all of a sudden it's season 2. I'm like, how does that work? I mean, I really, from some podcasts that I've been following, they go by the year. But other people seem to go just as willy-nilly. Like for instance, Gary Keller's podcast, Think Like a CEO or Act Like a CEO. They're already on to season 2. And I'm like, how does that work? How do you get to already be on season 2?
Is Gary Keller only season 1? Our interview with Gary is season 1.
Yeah. Kind of what it looks like. I haven't
Well,
listened
it's
to all
funny.
of them yet.
There's podcasts that like Serial, which is following the case, right? Like a criminal case.
Okay.
So there's an end and a beginning.
And they call that the
beginning
beginning of a season and the end of a season? Okay.
So the next story is a new season.
Okay, so just as however you want it to be.
We
just jam-packed season 1
Yeah.
with nearly 60 episodes.
We should do season 2 once we roll over.
Oh, it's going to for sure. That was my plan, but I just wondered,
Season 2.
should I have done that sooner? But I don't think so.
No.
I mean, our listeners, they need a lot of things to listen to, so we have a lot of content. Mm-hmm.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
You went and you were gone last week. You spoke.
I was. Mm-hmm.
Tell people where you were, Margaret.
I was in Burlington, Vermont, the northeast corner of the United States.
Have you ever been to Vermont before?
Just briefly, like 15 years ago.
And you went in the fall?
I did.
Was
it
it
was
beautiful?
Gorgeous.
Colorful?
Those colors that they talk about, those are real and vivid.
They're real colors?
Yeah. The red, orange, yellow combination. I mean, my visual, my brain was like in full overdrive with the intake of all the beauty. I could write a poem.
My brain is in full overdrive with the beauty.
Yeah. That was nice, though. They took us on a little bit of a tour on Wednesday, so I got to taste test some whiskey and go up the side of a mountain and
A mountain?
see the views.
What kind of mountain? I mean, come on. The mountains there are
I think they called
they're
it
like
Stowe.
rolling hills, right?
Yeah, there's nothing like Washington mountains, for sure.
Yeah. And those are nothing compared to Montana mountains.
That's what I've heard.
Actually, I mean, Washington has some legit mountains, but
Yeah.
not as many as Montana.
As Montana, yeah.
Montana has a lot more.
Yeah. We took a gondola up to lunch at the top, so a restaurant at the top of the mountain. That was beautiful. It was mostly Wisconsin people. It was their Wisconsin team. They were there for so it's the Hergenrother Team Advance. And 15 of us on that day, so everybody...
I just want to be clear about something.
Yeah.
Because you said that so quickly.
Okay.
You didn't give it the fanfare it deserved.
Okay.
So where did you go to speak?
So Hergenrother Real Estate
What's
Group.
Hergenrother? What's that?
Adam Hergenrother. Thank you.
Adam Hergenrother.
Context King. They're the number 4 team in the nation for units.
Yeah, Adam's legit.
Yeah. So Adam Hergenrother. And so he actually doesn't run, to my knowledge, any of his real estate anymore, real estate teams, but they have their advance where he comes and he'll talk, and they all get together once a year. So I think they have 15 expansion locations, and then their hub out of Vermont, of course. And so the Wisconsin team was there a day early to do the sightseeing. So it was, and it's not, there wasn't anybody else there that wasn't with Herg, and so they all assumed I was. And they were like, "Oh, are you our new expansion team in Seattle?" And I was like, "Oh no, not officially. I mean, no, I'm just here." But I love people from the Midwest. I have to say, it's probably why I like you too. Like Wisconsin, Minnesota, Montana, you guys are my people. Like it's so easy to bond with you guys. That's what I told these. They all laughed hysterically at me, and by the end of the day, they all loved me. But they were like, "Who are you, and why do we like you?" But we spent the whole day together. We sipped whiskey. We ate creamies. Do you know that's what they call soft serve ice cream there? Creamies. So much so that Erin, who's their director of like sales and something, she has a bunch of different things and has like a massive Instagram following. She is going to write a book on creamies. That's her next book in Vermont.
Her next book?
Yeah, she's already written another travel book in Vermont.
A travel book, wow.
Yeah. I was like, okay, so I had maple creamy with maple syrup on top and maple sugar sprinkled. It was to die for.
Sounds like you should be in a diabetic coma.
I probably should be. Yeah.
And how did your talk go?
Amazing. Yeah, I was very anxious about it, and I think I expressed it to you, but I try not to let my anxiety affect other people too much. But in the weeks leading up to it, I think it was Vanessa Rosenblum, who we had on the podcast last week. She asked me, she was like, "So, have you hammered out your talk?" Because it was about 2 weeks out when she asked me, and I said, "No, I haven't even begun." And she gave me this look like, "Seriously?" And I said, "I know, I can't." I literally had writer's block.
I was a little concerned.
Were you?
Well, I mean, you were 10 days away, and you didn't really know.
That's not how I operate.
And I so much so that I offered to help.
Yeah. Well, I was like, I think I was.
You know how much it takes for me to offer to help.
Yeah, I know. Well, and I think I expressed it to you. So I left on a Tuesday. It was the week before. And I didn't even have, I knew I needed the topic to be you and be inspirational and with a focus on social media, or the avenue being social media. I couldn't hammer out an outline. I would sit down to work on it. And of course that week was really busy during the day here at the office. So I didn't work on it during the day.
This is what it would look like for me then, if that happened to me. I'm sometimes life isn't linear. Sometimes life doesn't follow an outline. It'd be my way of rationalizing the fact that this conversation wasn't going to be linear.
Yeah.
And maybe it seems like I'm all over the place because sometimes that's what life is like.
That's awesome. Well, it was funny because that was the weekend of Sarah Trotsky's second bodybuilding show. So my plan was before I left, go to her show, come into the office, work on my talk, go back for her evening show, and then spend Sunday wrapping it up. And so I realized the way I operate was I had to get my visual down first. So once I did that, then I started to visualize actually having the talk. And so after Friday, when I finished at 12:30 or something over there, I sat back down and I was like, okay, damn it, I did it. And I felt really good about it. I had the impact I wanted to have. I have spent enough time teaching over the last 6 years that I'm now very comfortable in front of a group of 100 people. And I felt awesome about it. So I couldn't be happier with how it went. And several people cried, which is you and I love it when people cry because it just means something hit them in a certain way. And so
I love everyone else crying. I don't want to cry.
Yeah. Well, and there were agents in the audience, which is always interesting. I was worried about that. I told you because I wanted to make sure that it impacted them. And one of the guys is from Coeur d'Alene, and he came up to me afterwards. He's like, "I kind of want you to coach me just to see what other kind of weird shit you make me do." Because I made them do a couple different exercises.
Yeah.
It was hysterical. It was so funny. So I had the best time ever. It was really awesome. Yeah.
And you've already been asked to speak
2 other times.
2 other places?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Good on you. Good on you.
Good on you.
Good on you, Margaret. transition.
ASMR.
Where we transition using ASMR.
Yes. I forgot about that. I'm so glad you didn't.
I'm going to expect you to take us out of this transition.
Oh, me. Okay.
I did the first one.
You
By asking
took the
about your
dip
trip.
in. Okay.
See how this works?
Oh,
It's give and take, Margaret.
I see. Okay, give and take. Good book. Okay. Well, I'm going to transition out of this transition by asking, how did your week go while I was gone?
You got to transition by
Elevating
your
my
regular
voice.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, how was the week last week while I was gone?
Why are we talking about that?
Because it's just what I naturally transitioned into.
Well, now I have to drink something because I put Pop Rocks in my mouth and I can't talk intelligently. This little Pop Rocks dancing on my tongue.
Dancing on your tongue or in your brain now.
Honestly, it wasn't a great week when you were gone. And it wasn't that you were gone. It was just, there was
Just happened.
just happenings. And, yeah, so it was, I mean, we moved the ball forward, which I'm always happy about.
Yeah.
And, you know, just had a deal. And this week's going better.
Have your kids settled into more of a pattern now that school's like been in for a couple weeks, doing homework? They're like,
Yeah, for the most part, although Sayla's struggling with 7th grade in math mostly.
yeah,
The amount of homework that, you know, when you're in elementary school, 1st to
it's so different.
5th
Yeah.
especially, it's like pretty cake.
Mm-hmm.
And then 6th is a little bit harder, and then 7th is like, okay, now it's time to get ready for high school.
Yeah.
And so she's having a little hard time. She has ADD, and so
Well, you were telling me that just the amount of homework she has, even for someone who didn't have ADD, it's a lot of time after the hours already
Yeah.
spent in the school building.
Well, let me talk about this for a second, because I would say that my perspective growing up, or the perspective of those I grew up around,
Mm-hmm.
was that ADD was like a made up thing.
Yes. Yeah. And especially in
And
Montana, I can see that.
ADHD was a made up thing, and that these were just hyperactive. These were active kids,
Yeah.
and whatever. That's kind of how everyone talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
It is super real when you look at my daughter. Like when
Yeah.
you see my daughter is 13 years old, going on 42.
She is,
She's
yeah. She's a wise
As
soul.
responsible as I am, probably maybe more. And she's a good student. She's smart.
Yeah.
But you put her homework in front of her with a concept or an equation or something, and it takes her so long. And it's not that she doesn't know it, it's just so hard for her to stay focused. And it's not like she's hyperactive. She doesn't have ADHD, it's ADD. So it's not hyperactive, it's just she has a hard time focusing. So it's very stressful for everybody right now, because she's in like pre-algebra, and it's been a minute since I've done pre-algebra.
Right, yeah.
And same with Jill. And we're having to sit with her for like 2 to 4 hours a night to do homework, and it's
It's got a second
a
job.
lot.
You got a second job.
a lot. Well,
Yeah.
and you know me and leverage, so I'm like, let's hire a tutor.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to kill someone.
And I think that's actually super smart, because the things you also want to do after school or after work for you, it's like make dinner, like all that stuff takes time too.
No, I'm exhausted
and you
now.
have less patience already. And we all have less patience when we go home. So I would be full on board for the tutor.
Yeah. So we'll see. We're figuring it out. And transition.
Transition.
Two.
Yes.
I have 2 things I want to talk to you about.
2 things.
Yeah. I'm going to put, metaphysically, I'm going to put the name of one in my left hand and one in my right hand.
Oh my gosh.
I want you to pick, just based off the energy.
Oh, okay. Okay. Let me get a sense for the energy. You know, what's interesting is I can actually feel the energy on my right hand more than my left.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the right. So you're left.
Okay.
Yes.
I already know this answer, so I can't even like fake a question to you.
Please try.
I already know you're not going to know what I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
So let's just I'll just fake it anyway.
Okay.
Hey, Margaret, are you aware
Hey,
of what's
Jesse.
going on in Hong Kong?
Only from the little bit that you told me yesterday.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I'm fascinated. We're going to go way off real estate for a second.
Yeah.
But you know what? I promise this will be entertaining.
Oh, yeah.
Because I feel
from the little bit I've heard already. Yes.
I feel very strongly about this.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to rant probably for a little while.
Okay.
But context is king.
Always.
So let's start there. Do you know where Hong Kong is?
I mean, yes, basically.
Where?
Oh my gosh, you're gonna make me describe it. Well, I don't know where it's situated between countries. I don't think I can name. I'm not that visual like that.
Okay, it's very close to China.
Okay.
It's very
Yes.
close to China. And but it was a British colony.
Yeah.
And it had a lot of freedoms that a British colony would provide. And in 1997, Britain gifted Hong Kong to China with some conditions, basically saying that there would be a 50-year transition plan.
Okay.
And that Hong Kong would have independent rule. Like, it would be somewhat autonomous from China. That China would... The saying is one... what's the saying?
You're basically like a history teacher. I don't know how you remember all this stuff.
At all. They have a saying. Let me look it up real quick.
Okay.
To get it right.
I have officially downloaded the Reddit app so that I can start.
Okay. One country, two systems.
Okay.
So they're basically saying, hey, you are part of China, but we're going to let you operate a little bit more independently than a citizen of China. Because in Hong Kong, under British rule, they had freedom of speech. They had more freedoms, let's just say, in general, including freedom of speech, which I was a little surprised by because I thought America was the only country with freedom of speech.
Mm-hmm.
And what's happening now is China was trying to extradite. Well, essentially, Chinese government through its Hong Kong shills, were trying to get a measure passed that would allow the Chinese government to extradite Hong Kong citizens to China for trial. And basically, the way that, if you don't know much about China, you need to know something about China. And most of what I know about China is through pop culture.
Yeah.
Meaning I haven't done any studies, but most of what I know about China, I learned from South Park. You know what I mean? Like, and South Park has a great episode out now or recently called Band, B-A-N-D, like rock band in China. I highly recommend you watch it, and the one before it as well. And because they have such a clever way of educating us on world events, right? For instance, I learned from South Park that someone created a meme comparing the president of China to Winnie the Pooh, which he didn't like very much. So he banned Winnie the Pooh from China.
That's
and
crazy.
Winnie the Pooh memes from China. And
Yeah.
if you create a meme, they'll throw you in jail. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it starts there, and then it gets more pervasive beyond that. But I've been somewhat following the protests in Hong Kong. And so basically when they tried to allow China to extradite Hong Kong citizens, these protests started happening. And the citizens said, no, like, we're not agreeing to this. We are an independent country. We're used to more freedoms than China provides. And this is a slippery slope, and we're not going to let you start to do this.
Okay.
And we're going to fight. So what's interesting is their response, China actually kind of backed off this extradition policy right away. They kind of backed off. And the protesters, in response, said, you know what? Now we're emboldened. You've already got us started on this course, so let's just ensure that this never happens.
Okay.
We want a statement. We want a policy that this will never happen.
Yeah.
Right? And China was slow in doing it. And eventually, in September, I think they did get rid of the provision entirely. So what's kind of interesting about this whole thing is China's been trying to keep this under wraps. They've been trying to deal with this, not let it blow up in a huge incident, because with the trade war going on between the U.S. and China, or Trump and China, this doesn't help, right? If you're a government and you can't control your people, it looks bad to everyone else. And China is very proud, right? And so they will kill you in order to make something go away. So, interestingly enough, I mean, Hong Kong is a very progressive country. It's extremely populated, 7.5 million people. I think it's the most populated country in the world, densely populated. It's very wealthy. They have a lot of economy and a lot of technology. And so China, for instance, China installed these facial recognition cameras in Hong Kong, and the protesters were going around and cutting these down. And they invented masks that they would wear.
Brilliant.
These are not masks, like they wear masks like a ski mask, like you're going to go rob a house. But but that could get you in trouble if the police might pick on you so anyway, they passed a law you can't wear a mask. Well, so then that they have to get rid of the ski masks, and they invent these like plexiglass masks that are see-through that you can see the face, but at the way they're angled, or I don't know the way they're made, it distorts the face, so the facial recognition software can't recognize you. And on top of that, the protesters are cutting down these as fast as they go up. And so I just am following this.
Now you've made me want to follow it.
Well, and I that's why I want to talk about it. So I want to tell the whole story. I'll tell the whole story, and then I'll tell everybody what I think and why I think this matters. So the next major event, I think, let me think about this for a second. There was something that happened. I'm trying to remember, right? Something happened right before. Oh, that South Park thing. Okay, so South Park, this whole thing happens with South Park. And South Park airs this episode called Banned in China. China bans South Park. Like, they take the episode, like, you can't find this episode in China. So if they don't like something, they just remove it. And, like, if you are a citizen there and you Google something, you're getting whatever results China wants you to see. So you can't get information on Hong Kong probably right now and what's going on, because the Chinese government is controlling what information you can see. Meanwhile, in Hong Kong, they are protesting on the weekends, and then they're going to work like kind of normal Monday through Friday, and then they go out on the weekend and they protest. Millions of people, and it's reaching a fever pitch. The Chinese government is throwing tear gas off of tops of skyscrapers. And they're not affecting just protesters, it's affecting citizens. What China's doing is against many UN conventions, and certainly is not in favor of human rights on many levels. But this is where I think this is hilarious, and it's so revealing to me, is the next step in this whole China-Hong Kong thing is the NBA goes over there, and the NBA decides to have they want to do 2 preseason games in China. And this is a thing that this is what America does, right? Especially American sports. So football, in football, there's a limit to growth in America because it's already very successful here. There's only 17 games a year, 17 weeks of games in a year. And it's very well saturated, right? Like, everyone knows about the NFL in the United States. And if you want to own a jersey, you own one, right? It's not like, oh, I just found out about this new thing called football. I'm going to go buy a uniform. Well, that's that. So what the NFL is doing is they're doing games in London. So they're trying to, what they're trying to do is encourage a new fan base, a new economy for them.
Interesting.
In a foreign state, right? By having these teams play in London, which poses some problems because of the time difference. You can't send American states to Europe and expect them to play well with jet lag, right? And so the idea of having an English football team is somewhat ridiculous for that reason.
Yeah.
So I understand why they keep. So instead of just establishing an NFL team there, they just send our teams over there to do like exhibitions and to play games and to encourage a fan base in that area. Well, the whole talk with China and any company in the United States is that China is this ginormous country with like 8 billion people or something in it. And who wouldn't want to go into a market that had that many potential customers?
Yeah.
You can make a lot of money, right? So the NBA goes over there to do this two preseason games. And so it's basically a week in China where they, send out our biggest stars, and then they do exhibitions and they meet the fans, and it's a whole production.
Wow.
And while they're over there, right as they get there, like right off the plane, the manager for the Houston Rockets puts a tweet out supporting the protesters in Hong Kong. Well, the Chinese government sees it. The guy deletes it.
Wow.
But Chinese government goes to the commissioner of the NBA, Silver, and they go to him and say, hey, not cool. Shut up about Hong Kong. In fact, so not cool. Fire that guy.
Wow.
And the commissioner, who is this, I wish you could see what he looks like. He looks like Nosferatu, or who's the guy that you can't speak his name in
Harry Potter?
Harry Potter.
Voldemort?
He's this pasty, white, skinny exoskeleton of a man, and he's not that imposing.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there, and he's trying so hard to ride the line.
Wow.
He's trying so hard to be like, hey, and I don't blame him. This put him in a very weird position.
Yeah.
Because he's the CEO of a giant
Huge.
Giant business, the NBA.
Yeah.
Billions of dollars we're talking about.
Yeah.
In a market where they make billions of dollars, right? So billions of dollars are on the line.
Yeah.
And as Americans, you don't mess around with freedoms.
Yeah.
And you don't mess around with free speech.
Yeah.
And if America gets a sense that you are putting money over human rights, we will burn you to the ground. Like not everyone will, but there is certainly a majority of people that would turn their backs on the NBA if they decided to put money over people.
Totally.
So Silver's up there and he's like, hey, man, what do I say? He's like, oh, okay. Well, he basically slapped the manager on the hand and said, we are not encouraging, we're not trying to get involved in the protest and the politics.
Yeah.
And basically trying to make this go away. He's basically like, well, I can't control what he says, but that doesn't reflect the attitude or the spirit of the NBA as a whole. And while human rights certainly are important, and as Americans, we obviously think it's important, this is a big week for us in China. Right? And so he didn't come off great. He didn't come off bad, but he didn't come off great.
Yeah.
And he certainly didn't diffuse the issue.
Yeah.
Because it basically said, oh, you're being weird because you might lose millions of dollars if you say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And that's more concerning to you than standing up and saying what's right.
Oh, gosh.
So they're in whatever mode. They're in like emergency, DEFCON 5. How do we fix this, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I if they were asking me, I'd be like, oh, the guy banned Winnie the Pooh. So I don't think you can use logic and reason at this point.
No.
So what's hilarious is then LeBron James enters the scene. Mm-hmm. And if you're an NBA fan at all, you have an opinion about LeBron James. Mm-hmm. And I'm an NBA fan, but and the NBA has made mistakes. Mm-hmm. Around 1998, 99, I think, the NBA players went on strike, and a lot of people stopped watching them, including me. I stopped watching them because, are you kidding me? You know, like a little bit. You're making millions of dollars, and you're gonna go on strike because you want to make more.
Yeah.
And I understand they were fighting for. I just have a hard time with labor unions in general. They certainly had a time and a place where they were needed, and I think that time has passed for the most part. But whatever the case is, I didn't like it, and so I decided to stop watching the NBA. And I stopped watching for like 15 years.
Wow.
But I would watch college ball. I love basketball. I played basketball in high school. And I would stay up on the news, but I wouldn't watch the sports, right? I watched Kobe Bryant. I loved Kobe Bryant. I thought he was great. He had some, ethical issues. But LeBron James was quite the story because he was a phenom in high school, phenom of all phenoms. I mean, the guy was like 6'8" and 230 pounds in high school. So, I mean, he was big guy. So he was one of the last players to go directly from high school into the NBA. And I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm not going to get everything right, okay?
Yeah.
Everyone who's going to send us notes about the reality of politics in Hong Kong and China and everything else, feel free to educate me, but I'm not going to get everything right. But I don't think LeBron had the grades to go to college. I don't think he had what he needed academically to go to college. They were also broke, beyond broke. They had no money. So he was big enough and tall enough and strong enough to go directly into the NBA. And he did that. And right after they did that, the NBA passed a rule saying you couldn't do it anymore. So he was like one of the last ones.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So what it does for an NBA player is it adds 4 years to your career, 3 or 4 years, right? Because now you're starting at 18 instead of 22, or whatever the case may be. And Kobe was another one who came right out of high school and went and played for the NBA. So LeBron James is called King James. Pretty funny nickname, right? And he's a dominating player. He's arguably one of the best players of all time.
Yeah.
Am I boring the heck out of you yet?
No, I'm just looking something up because the little bit I do know about LeBron, I know from my brothers because they were playing ball and like that was all they talked about senior year.
Well, and so here's what I'll say. I don't think LeBron James is that well liked when compared with other all-time greats like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. And the reason for that is multidimensional. LeBron has a bad attitude. He's a crybaby. He tries to carry the team on his back instead of like equipping his team members.
That never works well.
Right? So he wants the ball all the time and he's going to make things happen, but it's not a team. It's not like a cohesive unit.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, he started in Cleveland. When he left Cleveland, they burned his jerseys. It was a big deal. He went to Miami. He won some championships. He went back to Cleveland. He won at least one championship there before he went to the Lakers. He's almost an executive of the NBA at this point because he basically when he can do whatever he wants and he talks to Stern and they let him be like the spokesperson of the league. They give him a lot of
I was just looking at all of his highlights. You named off quite a few of them.
All right. Yeah, so he's NBA champion 3 times, twice with the Heat, once with the Cavaliers. He's been the MVP all 3 times.
That's crazy.
NBA most valuable player 4 times, All-Star 15 times. Like, he's ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right. On top of that, James is a philanthropist. He is super wealthy. I mean, basketball contracts are ridiculous.
They're ridiculous, yeah.
Like hundreds of, like this guy just got an extension that's over $100 million. It's an extension. On top, he's already made $100 million. Now they're going to give him $100 million.
Yeah.
So LeBron makes ridiculous money, and then you factor in endorsements, and it gets out of control.
Yeah.
So LeBron pledges, I want to say like $50 million to the creation of this academy that's doing this is awesome what he's doing. And so what he did is he created a network of school. I think it's going to be a network of schools. Maybe it started with one school and it's going to be more in the inner city for kids to go to, like, basically to ensure that the inner city kids get a good education.
Okay.
And the results are out, and these kids are testing through the roof. Like, it's making a difference.
Huh.
It's making a huge difference. He's changing lives. So LeBron James is uniquely qualified and uniquely positioned to affect change in the world.
Yeah.
Especially in his micro or macro culture. So what I would say is, like, he's in his environment.
Mm-hmm.
And so and that's what I mean. Like, he has a school starting in LA, and it's changing the landscape
huge.
there,
Yeah.
right? And he's going to do that across the states. On top of that, he's a producer of documentary series about basketball and sports and about human rights.
Mm-hmm.
So with this whole Hong Kong thing debacle, I can only imagine that he said, you know what? There's only one man that can fix this, and that's King James. And I imagine that he went to Stern, the commissioner of the NBA, and go, you know what? You know, I've thought a lot about this, and begrudgingly, I think I'm going to have to be the one to fix it. And Stern's like, thank God. Thank God. I put the bat signal on, and Batman showed up. And now he's going to save the day. LeBron James essentially said that the Houston Rockets manager was misinformed and didn't understand the complexity of the situation when he issued the tweet. It was a very odd, and if I was NPR, I'd quote it verbatim.
Yeah.
But let's just say it. I'll just leave it at that. He basically said, hey, this guy didn't know what he was talking about. He didn't think about the effects of what he was saying and how it could really cost people money. Like, this guy, he shouldn't have said it. He did say it. He shouldn't have said it because we're trying to do something here in China, the NBA is, and you kind of fucked it up. And I saw him say this, and something in me broke. Like, I was like, F LeBron James.
Yeah.
I will never. This changes how I think of him for the rest of my life. Because he is absolutely siding with the monetary wealth and concern of the NBA over human rights.
Over people. Yeah.
People are dying in Hong Kong. Okay? It's not a lot of people yet.
Yeah.
But people are losing eyesight. People are being thrown into jail, into prisons, and they're being locked up for speaking their mind and for rising up and saying, hey, we want to rule independently.
Yeah.
And China is not a government that lets people do that. And so this is a country that is used to having its freedoms, and those freedoms are being taken away.
Yeah.
And they're rising up and they're saying, no, we will not stand for this. And LeBron James is going to come in and
very
say,
public figure,
and say, you know what? We don't know what we don't know what's going on over there. It's a very complicated situation. What I do know is that I do know basketball, and let's play basketball.
It's
And
disappointing.
I'm like, LeBron, you're smarter than that. So the internet reacts in the most amazing way. Reddit blows up. The internet blows up. I sent you this image that my favorite image is someone who photoshopped LeBron James to look like Chairman Mao.
Oh, gosh.
With the hairline and everything.
Yeah.
It's the best. I love it so much. I want to get it as a t-shirt and wear it every day. And I want to keep this alive. I want to keep this LeBron hate alive because it's important. He made an amazing no-look pass yesterday, and I want to post everywhere. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. Being able to throw a ball somewhere and not look in that direction is not what I care about.
Yeah.
What I care about is so as a American citizen, we forget that these rights aren't shared everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. We take them for granted.
Now I'm going to rant about something else. Yes, that image is so perfect. It's this dumb-looking... All they did is they took Chairman Mao's black and white image, and they put LeBron's face on it, and they gave him Chairman Mao's hair. And this is the best... If you want to tell a story in a picture, that's how you do it, right there.
Well, this goes... I mean, we could connect this to so many different conversations we had, but even during an interview today, we were talking about integrity. And the more, like, and I have countless examples, I'm sure we both do, but there are now probably a couple times a week at least where situations come up where I now have to consider what I'm going to share on social media. As crazy as that sounds, I'm a little bit of an influencer, so the things that I share and the companies that we partner with and the people that I talk about are people that are following me truly believe and know that I've vetted. And so what do they? I mean, there's so many quotes around. The more that you get, the more that you have, the more responsibility you have as well. And so that's just really unfortunate and extremely sad that ultimately basketball overruled some. I mean, there's some. I mean, yeah.
I suffer from white privilege because I'm a white man, and I would. You know what? You said white privilege to me a few years ago, and I would have done the Montana thing, and I'd be like, stick it up your whatever. But I understand it now.
Yeah.
Like, I understand that, and I could explain it in a way, which is just that my ancestors didn't have to go through what LeBron's ancestors went through.
Yeah.
And so I'm in a better qualified station in life because of that. And so while black people have had freedoms, they're still catching up, man. Like, you don't have to go that far back, and they didn't have any rights. You don't even have to go back, like, 60 years, and they were getting lynched, and they couldn't eat in the public. You know what I mean? Like,
it's not that far ago, that long ago.
No, and for LeBron James especially, to be able to not take that into consideration and say, hey, we are so blessed to live in this country. And here's the other thing that I wish America would do. In this, we're so divisive right now. We're so split, right?
Very much so.
In our political camps. And what a unique opportunity for us to be nationalistic for a second. And say, no matter what is going on in the world, we know this is wrong. And together, united, we can come together on this issue, and we can support Hong Kong. We can support human rights around the world. Because what we're fighting for is our human rights. If human rights fail in Hong Kong, that's a domino, man. And that domino, it doesn't sit by itself. It has other dominoes that live nearby. And eventually that hits us. We're already to the point to some degree. So okay. So I'm gonna take a rabbit trail a different direction. I also asked you if you watched this 90 Days the Other Way show on
and I haven't.
TLC. All right, so many of you, hopefully I didn't bore you too much with the NBA talk. Let me go into TLC programming. They have a show called 90 Days. What's it called? I don't know.
90 Days the Other Way?
No, before that, there's 90 Days. I can't remember. But anyway, it's this show that follows people who essentially haven't found love. Right? And so then they look for love outside the United States.
Oh, yes. For
whatever reason. And then they strike up a relationship online, and then these people get a 90-day visa to come to the United States, where they are supposed to date and court the American into proposal and marriage to become an American citizen and live happily ever after. And what a brilliant premise for a show. Because these people are insane. These people are not well-adjusted human beings. I don't know. If they took tests, I'm guessing they would hit all the indicators of trauma in their lives. I don't know what's happening, but for some reason, they're going through this nightmarish experiment of meeting someone, dating them, proposing, and getting married all in 90 days.
It stresses me out just to think about it.
Okay, so they have another show called 90 Days the Other Way, and this show is gold please, if you need a show to watch, it might take you 12 episodes to like really, you might think it's a waste of time for a little bit. I promise you, once you get to the 12th episode, it's totally worth it.
Okay.
So I'll just summarize this. There's a few different couples. There is a girl in Utah. She's 22. She meets a gentleman who's 27 in South Korea. Uh-huh. And he comes, I forget, I don't know the story exactly if they met on vacation and she got pregnant or he came to visit and she got pregnant. But she got pregnant,
oh my gosh,
on the first try. He goes back to South Korea. She calls him up, says, "I'm pregnant." And so I don't know. The confusing part of this TV show is I don't know if I don't know why these people can't come to the States all the time. I know some of them have like legal issues, like they're criminals, and so we won't let criminals in, and so for that reason they can't come to the United States. And there's always reasons, right? But for every scenario here, these are Americans going to other countries to be with someone they think they love. So this gal is pregnant and is moving to South Korea. She doesn't speak South Korean. She doesn't speak their language. She doesn't know their culture. She doesn't know their rules. She doesn't know their traditions.
Oh my gosh.
And here's the thing that you need to be here's a giant wake-up call if you're a woman in the United States and you go to a foreign country. They don't think you should do all the things that you're used to doing.
Nope.
Like driving a car or standing up for yourself or being sexually liberated. Like
a lot of things, yeah.
So, South Korea, that one is funny. That one is just an interesting aside, right?
Now I'm going to have to watch this show.
Oh, I'm not even to the good parts.
Yeah.
There's this pig farmer who is from Kentucky, and he's legit. He's touched. He's a little bit touched, and he's angry, man. This kid is angry. He has the emotional intelligence of like, what's something that's super aggressive and dumb? That's what I want to call this guy.
Oh, jeez.
I don't know. Super aggressive, dumb.
Just a really angry.
Antonio Brown.
Okay.
I don't know. Anyway, he's super aggressive. I mean, you know those passive aggressive. He's super passive aggressive. Anyway, he
obviously angry about something.
He meets this gal in I think Ecuador, and same thing. She gets pregnant, and so he sells everything and goes to be with her, and he's a terrible human being. And she's like, he's very strange. Like, you know, they editorialize, they do the little monologue in the camera, like Bachelor style, where you reflect on what happened. And she's like, he's a very strange man. I don't think I can be with him. Yeah, and he is. Then there's a super sweet guy from Washington State who met this girl in, I think she's from Ecuador. And he met her on vacation and fell in love. And she doesn't want to come to the United States. She's from Ecuador. She likes her family. This is a third world country. Like it's shanty town. Yeah. It's bad. So he loves her so much. He spends about $40,000 in supporting her and buying stuff, and then he moves to Ecuador to be with her. She doesn't even pick him up from the airport. This girl is so uninterested. Doesn't pick him up from the airport. He's got his whole life in 4 bags in a country he doesn't know, and he has to travel 2.5 hours by bus. And she doesn't come to the airport to pick him up. Like, and these people are obviously blind and dumb. Like, they can't see it. They're blinded by love. This 60-year-old woman is in Texas, I think. She's catfished by this guy in India. He sends all this stuff and he's ripped and he's handsome. And then for 4 years he does this, 3 or 4 years.
3 years?
And then he comes and then he goes, you know what? I don't look like that. This is what I really look like. And he's like an Indian dude. He's like 5'6" and brown, and and he's not a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
So she doesn't care. She loves him. So and for whatever reason, same thing. Family's so important. He can't leave. She needs to come there. She sells her house, quits her job.
Oh my God.
She has to give up Social Security. She's 60-something. She's 60 years old. She's going to give up Social Security to go be with this guy.
Wow.
She gets to India. She doesn't speak the language. Same story, different verse. Doesn't speak the language. She doesn't know anyone. And on top of that, his family's not in support of this because their culture is arranged marriages.
Yeah.
They're not going to let him marry. He's 30. She's 60. They're not going to let him marry a white girl
What is this
twice his
show?
age.
Yeah.
So he's like, I can't stay with you tonight. I need to go home to my parents. She's like, I don't know anyone else here.
Oh, gosh.
And it's like, so he leaves her for like days at a time. And she's like kicking around dust because she doesn't know what to do. It's unbelievable.
This is horrifying.
Okay, other couple. This gal has a child of her own. Falls in love with a guy from South Africa. South Africa, and not the nice part of South Africa.
Yeah.
Like the part of South Africa that mirrors the inner city of LA, like the worst parts of LA. They have barbed wire fence like over around each house. They guarantee you'll be broken into. You just want to be between the burglar and your baby, your child, you know? Anyway, so she has like a 5 or 6 year old kid, and and the guy that she fell in love with has a criminal record and can't come to the United States. So she moves her 6-year-old kid out of this wonderful country and moves him to South Africa where they have nothing. They have no money. She gets pregnant while she's there. They get married. She gets pregnant. They go to a maternity ward to like check it out at the public hospital. And it looks like the nurse's station at some backwater Christian camp in Louisiana. They basically tell him you may not get a bed. You might have to deliver on the floor. Like, that's how bad this place is.
Oh, wow.
And so no sane American woman would give birth to a child
on the floor.
So it's all of these stories, right?
Wow.
And kind of the parallel I'm trying to draw is we're so safe here.
Yeah, we're in our bubble.
We don't think about what it's like. This other woman who is older, 60 years old, marries a 29-year-old guy from Qatar. And Qatar's a good country. Like, it's a progressive country. Well, it's not progressive. It's more progressive than other Middle Eastern countries. Mm-hmm. It's a wealthy country, so they have technology and transportation. And they actually seem to like each other. Like, they actually seem to be in love. But, again, same story. She goes over there, doesn't think about the cultural differences, doesn't think about anything else. Though she has a son who's 22 years old who's, like, devastated by her moving. And he's basically saying, this is not going to work out. Please don't go.
Yeah.
You begin to see something's wrong when she brings a vibrator to Qatar with her, and she's thinking that they can incorporate this into their night. And he takes such offense, like, he leaves. He's like, no, you can't do that, throw it away. And he's trying to be very domineering, very forceful. I'm in charge, you're the woman, you're secondary, you know. And she's like having none of it, right? And I'm like, woman, you aren't in America. Yeah. You're not in America.
Yeah.
And you're getting married to a guy in his country with his rules.
Yeah.
And you're going to sit here and kick dust in his face every time you don't get your way? Because I get it. I'm with you. And maybe this isn't the right thing. Mm-hmm. And so that show, it's amazing. Check it out. Get to at least
have to check it out now.
To at least episode 12, 13, 14, because some things happen that you just can't believe. And
I thought it would be a good show to binge watch one day.
And I like it because I'm a student of human behavior. Mm-hmm. I like watching it and seeing it, and I like to make sure I take some notes because I can be dumb and I can be ungrateful and I can forget things.
We all have blind spots for sure, but I think what you just spoke to is that there is a large portion of the people in the United States that don't realize what we have. They just don't, or they don't do the research. They don't think about it. They don't ponder it. They're in their bubble and they stay in the bubble.
Okay, we're already kind of getting there, guys. And so I'm just gonna go off for a little bit. Twitter, we can't say what we want. If you say the wrong thing on Twitter, they'll ban you.
Yeah.
Or if you say the wrong thing anywhere, people will join up against, and they'll dox you. There's all these terms that didn't exist 5 years ago. Over all of this, this outrage culture is stifling free speech, and I think we have to be very careful about it. I listen to a lot of comedians, and I have a little bit different outlook than most people. Comedians should say whatever they want because they only get paid if people buy tickets. And if they only will continue if they can continue to sell more and more and more tickets. So, but what's funny is comedians have a way of saying things in a way that make us think about them in a unique perspective we didn't think about before.
Sure, yeah.
And so I would argue that a lot of LGBTQ rights were furthered because of comedy.
Oh.
I would argue that women's rights were furthered because of comedy. I would argue that a lot of progressive things that happen because someone was bold enough to sit in front of a bunch of people and kind of joke about what if or shine a light on something that wasn't right.
Sure, yeah.
And we are stifling their voices. We're coming against all sorts of people. Louis C.K., Aziz Ansari, others I can't think of right now. And I understand it. That, like, there should be justice for people that have bad behavior. I believe in that. But I don't believe that we should restrict free speech. And I think it's a slippery slope, and I don't want to see it happen in any way, shape, or form. And I'm just asking people to pay attention. Pay attention to what's happening in Hong Kong. Pay attention to how China's handling it. And pay attention to how our government responds. Because it's not okay for LeBron to say, I don't know about that. I just want to play basketball and get paid. I'm sorry, LeBron, you're no longer the voice. You have more money than God, and you can do what you want. And even with that money, you're worried, you're concerned about making more. Versus ensuring that your kids always have the right to say what they want. Like, why isn't LeBron why isn't he defending the rights of his children over the rights of an NBA to make money?
Yeah, it's all fear-based and greed. A lot of greed. It's sick.
Keep talking. I want to share that thing I sent you today.
Well, you have inspired me to absolutely watch that show. And for most people to know, and if you don't know, you can tell from this episode that Margaret doesn't really watch television at all. And so something like this, though, is intriguing to me because, like you, I think that's another thing that you and I totally bond over and like have similar interests in is human behavior. And there's nothing I like more than just understanding how people think and why they come to conclusions and how to alter that. And like what you spoke to when you were talking about the comedians really made me think about education and how as real estate agents, it's our job to educate our clients. And oftentimes people hear messages and you have to try in 5 different ways in order to help them understand what you're saying. And so I think you're right. I think the best way to educate people is to think about the different ways in which people learn. And it may be from a comedian, it may be from someone like us. So, I mean, I've told people before that, yes, my classes are about the relationship and partnership between the owner and the executive assistant, or just about the basics of real estate, or my BU talk that I just gave. But all it is an avenue in which for me to talk about how to love people and have compassion and empathy. So sure, real estate's my platform, but my message is much bigger than that. And I think that's the responsibility that unfortunately LeBron kind of stepped back from. Was he had such an opportunity as an influencer and someone with a lot of money to make a difference, and he chose in that moment to be fearful, which is really sad. I understand it takes bravery and it takes but there's no excuse. It's just no excuse. Everybody has this choice every single day. We have the choice to make a smaller stand. We don't have the same presence that LeBron has, obviously. But still, I take every little move that I make, and every time that I stand up for someone or stand up in our market center, I take that very seriously because it has a ripple effect. And if someone sees me stand up for someone, they will stand up for someone else. And that's what LeBron just lost, is he lost your faith in him, which then it has a ripple effect. And so It's a huge topic. I mean, we could literally do like a conference about it.
So I found this meme on Reddit, and it's a image of Martin Luther King, and it says a quote by him that says, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere."
Mm-hmm.
Below that is a picture of LeBron James with the quote, "I don't think every issue should be everybody's problem," which is a quote he made in reference to his prior quote where he said, "I don't think we should get involved."
Mm-hmm.
Let me find the actual quote that LeBron said. All right. So I don't have the full quote right here, but it says LeBron gave an interview where he said that that gentleman was misinformed about the situation and that it should have stayed behind closed doors. Which just, I don't understand this at all.
Yeah.
And so it says something about our country. The problems we have says something about our country.
Mm-hmm. We
don't have that many problems.
Mm-hmm.
Because it seems like we do, but they're not real problems.
If you go big scale,
people aren't protesting in the streets because they are fighting for their right to free speech.
Mm-hmm.
They're not fighting. We're not protesting in the streets because people are taking us out of our homes and sending us to a different country.
Yeah.
And so we're fighting about Trump.
Mm-hmm.
We're fighting about outrage culture. Mm-hmm. So we're fighting about gender roles and words. And politics.
Mm-hmm.
Like, none of this stuff is life and death. Mm-hmm. None of this stuff is stuff that's going to affect our kids to, like, a crazy level. Mm-hmm. But fighting up for human rights should always be our concern. Mm-hmm. We should always be worried about it.
Yeah. So our friend Vanessa that we just had on, she happened to be in Paris, I think it was last week, and there was a protest in Paris. And I haven't asked her yet. She just posted some videos of it. And then she went home to Barcelona, and there was a protest in Barcelona. And I don't know if they have to do with the same things, but the video that she posted of the one in Paris involved tear gas. It was scary. So it's just interesting. I mean, that...
Anytime people have to rise up against the government, it's scary.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
And the situation in Hong Kong is different. It's complicated. It's complicated when a British colony is given to a country by Britain. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not given by the citizens of the country. It's given by a foreign nation to another foreign nation. And these people are saying, "Hey, we can govern ourselves. Thank you very much." Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And how about the one free country in the world sides with them? Mm-hmm. How about that?
Yeah.
Instead, like, it shouldn't be a contest. It shouldn't be a contest. Mm-hmm. Hong Kong is more closely aligned with our ideals than China, for sure. Mm-hmm. Like, it's no contest. We don't want Chinese rule here, I promise. Mm-hmm. Not in any...
No.
Like, if you have Winnie the Pooh, you go to jail.
It doesn't make any sense at all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be curious now to keep more of an eye on it. What people are doing, like what action steps can people do to help bring more awareness to it?
Here's what I think it'll be interesting, and I'm worried that the NBA or somebody even more powerful than the NBA will do damage control, and they'll wag the tail of the dog. I don't know if you know what that means, but they'll create a situation that takes the headlines away from LeBron, away from Hong Kong, away from this thing.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I'm going to champion this image of LeBron looking like Chairman Mao. Mm-hmm. I want to create t-shirts and sell them. And I want to wear it every day. Mm-hmm. And I want to remind people every day of what he said and what he did. Mm-hmm. Because it's wrong.
Yeah.
It's wrong. And I get it. There are times in life where you have to stand up for something and it's uncomfortable and you might lose money. Mm-hmm. But everything is perspective. Mm-hmm. If you have hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe you can stand up for something. Mm-hmm. But it's harder, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't want to lose all that he's gained.
Yeah.
It's easier for the poor man to lose his life than a rich man.
Mm-hmm. That was a heavy topic.
Time for whiskey.
Yeah.
And I know it's not real estate, and it's not admin, and it's not leadership. Well, it is leadership.
Yeah, it totally is. I mean, this is right in line with everything else that we discuss.
There's very rare opportunities where I see something that's so clear to me. It's such a clear problem, and I'm afraid that we're turning a blind eye. This is just emboldened Hong Kong, by the way. Like they're like, oh, we have the attention of the United States.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I'll tell you where this is at. This is about to get really interesting, and maybe not a good way. But we have to figure out what we're willing to stand for.
Mm-hmm.
And the House of Representatives did something. They passed some sort of legislation showing support of Hong Kong and human rights. And China basically, by it passing the House, China took attention and they said, hey, if you guys pass this, if you side with Hong Kong, it gets real fast. And we're in a game of chicken. Mm-hmm. Trump started a long time ago with this trade war. We were already in a game of chicken about our trade policies. And now we're in a game of chicken about human rights. Mm-hmm. I hope we don't confuse the two. Mm-hmm. That's all I'm saying.
Drop the mic. Again, I can't say anything after that.
I can't put Pop Rocks. I certainly can't put Pop Rocks in my mouth after that.
No. Yeah. No, you just spoke very well and eloquently to everything that I am very passionate about. So...
it makes me worried.
Yeah.
It makes me concerned.
Yeah.
Do you remember Tiananmen Square? Were you old enough to remember that image of, I think it was a woman or a man standing in the line of a tank, in front of a tank?
I probably would recognize it if I saw it.
I mean, we've already been through this with China.
Yeah.
There was and I'm not as familiar as a kid when it happened, but I remember it.
Yeah.
I remember the protesters in Tiananmen Square, and China just ran tanks over them.
Wow.
And thankfully, the internet happened, and China can't hide. They can't hide their aggression.
Yeah.
They can't hide what they do.
Yeah.
The world's going to know. And then they might be able to hide it from Chinese citizens, but they're going to have... That's not the only people they have to worry about anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We are in a global economy. What China does affects us. What we do affects China. Mm-hmm. And if we all band together, we can affect change. Mm-hmm. Or we can fail to band together, and change will happen to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What side do you want to be on? Okay.
The change side.
Transition to Winnie the Pooh. No, I don't know. If you want to learn this in a more lighthearted way, I do recommend you watch the last couple episodes of South Park. Yeah. The one banned in China.
I think I'm going to watch it.
And the one before that one
are
both about this issue specifically.
Okay.
And I love their ability. Their no holds barred look and attack on China is so brilliant. Okay. It just is so... They give it to China, and it's so funny. And they did it knowing that China would ban them. Yeah. I want to end with that. Yeah. You can be LeBron James, or you can be South Park. You can be Trey Parker and Matt Stone, because those guys are brilliant, and they're millionaires. Mm-hmm.
Taking a stand.
They have lots of money. LeBron has lots of money. And the difference is Matt and Trey are trying to affect change by using their art and their forum to affect change and to inform people. Yeah. And LeBron had the same opportunity, and instead of doing that, he tried to insulate his trade. Yeah. He tried to save his industry. Yeah. And I think Americans can see through that. Mm-hmm. And I think we will leave industries that put money over people.
Oh, heck yeah. I think we should end on that note.
How do we how do we share these memes with do we do it on the Facebook page?
The memes that you mentioned? Oh, heck yeah. When I post the episode, we'll post it in the comments. Yeah. Or we can just do we'll post them all at the same time.
I legit reached out to the Redditor that
you?
posted the picture of Chairman Mao, LeBron James, and I asked him if he owned the image because I want to make t-shirts.
Awesome.
For real. I want to walk around with a picture of LeBron James looking like Chairman Mao on my chest. Cuz and then I want people to ask me about it.
Yeah.
And I go, "Oh, do you have a minute or a phone? Can you just listen to this podcast I recorded?"
I like it. I'm down.
All right. So I wonder what people will say.
We'll give us some feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw somebody that I know Joe Rogan interviewed who's she's a very left journalist, like very progressive, left-leaning social justice warrior type and siding with China, which I can't understand. I'll read it. I'll go read it to have the perspective. I can't imagine a perspective that changes my viewpoint on this issue.
Yeah.
But I will try to be open enough to look.
I'm curious.
But I would, if you guys don't know about this, please look into it. Just be aware. And I know it's not our fight right now, but
it could be.
Could be.
Yeah.
ASMR and whiskey.
Wow.
Welcome back, Margaret. Cheers. Drink afterward.
Thank you. For good luck.
Till next time.
Till next time.